Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk to you about my 5 most disappointing books of 2018. And the first book I want to start with is the first book that I only granted 1 star. So that was really low rating, and it was Beast from Lisa Jensen. As you might suspect from the name, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, told from the perspective of Belle. But what I really disliked about the book was that for me, it contains rape and violence against women. But at some point, the victim, Belle in this case, is falling in love with the Beast, who raped her, who treated her like dirt, and she is kind of seeking excuses why he did that to her. It's like rape culture being excused, and there is never an excuse for rape. I don't care who you were. I don't care how spoiled brat you were. There is no excuse for rape. Rape shouldn't be romanticized, and this is exactly what Beast does. It romanticizes rape, and that's what the book lost me. Apart from that, I actually didn't like the writing. I thought it was very mediocre. There were huge plot holes. The only thing I really liked about the story was the French setting. It is set in the French countryside, and it gave me the real Beauty and the Beast retelling vibe, because it was French and all the little pronouns and stuff were French. So that really captured the feeling of the original Beauty and the Beast story. The second book I want to talk about, and I know lots of you are madly in love with this book, is The Hazelwood from Melissa Albert. I think this is a case of it's me, it's not a book. I expected a completely different book from this. I expected a dark, twisted fairy tale, and what I got was a book where fairy tales were mentioned, and in the last 30% of the book were actually playing out. But in its core, this story isn't a fairy tale. It's just another YA romance. Boy meets girl and takes them on an adventure, and they start falling for each other in sort of sense. I really didn't like the boy main character. He was one other special snowflake who likes philosophy and things, and he's only 16, but he's the greatest philosopher ever. And the main girl, she has balls, and she doesn't want to listen, and she never, the classic YA tropes rule in this story. I really disliked it because of that, and I actually thought it wasn't so very well written. What I mean by that is it's the excuse of, but it's a fairy tale, it doesn't need to be explained, was used quite often, and I don't think that's true. It's not. You can't let weird stuff happen all the time and just say, but it's a fairy tale, go with the flow. That doesn't work for me. You need to need to give me arguments why this is happening. Else it's just a book who jumps from A to B to C without any logical progress in the story. So that was why I quite disliked it, and I decided for myself that I'm not gonna read Melissa Albert books, because I really think she's not my cup of tea. Then I read The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James, and again, this was also a point in my year that I thought I really need to stay away from YA. I was really intrigued by this book because I read science fiction, but I only read adult science fiction. This was young adult science fiction, and I was really curious if it was gripping and entertaining and excited, especially after reading the Illuminae Chronicles. That was just really good YA science fiction. This story is about a girl who is born in space. Her parents die, and she is left on this spaceship going to colonize a new world, and she has never had human contact, only over videos who have a very prolonged time to getting from Earth to space. But then one day Earth sends a rescue mission, a guy into space, and she falls in love with him. This is not a spoiler. This happens all in the first 10 to 15% of the book, and is also on the back page. So I'm not giving you the real story what this is about, although the real story what this is about is quite predictable, and I really dislike the main character. This is a girl who never had human contact, who never touched a human being in like more than a decade, and she really acts kind of weird, and weird would be normal considering she didn't have any human interaction. But that's just the point. She's not weird enough to have raised herself. There's a really big problem with that. So I really didn't like it. It was predictable. I was only 25% in and I knew where the story was going. Just another YA cliche, to be honest. Then I didn't read, but the next book is Without Merit from Colleen Hoover, and this just hurts me to say because Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite authors. So including a favorite author in a dislike video is really painful. But this book, it was such a mess. I really hope Colleen Hoover was drunk while she wrote it, because it was just horrible. I follow her on Instagram, and this week I saw she is describing Without Merit as a quirky, funny YA novel. And the only thing I could think is, have you written the same book that I have read, or did they give me something completely different inside this book? Did they find another story? Because this isn't quirky and this isn't funny at all. This is about Merit, teenager who grows up in a very dysfunctional family. Her father is married to the nurse of his ex-wife who lives in the basement. Her brother is struggling with with all kinds of issues. Her sister falls in love with guys who are dying. She gets a kick out of that. And then there's this guy who lives with them, who she thinks is who is the boyfriend of her sister, and you have the whole immigrant problems and stuff. What I thought Colleen was trying to do with this book, I'm not sure, but she tried to do so much with it. It's about depression, it's about suicides, it's about immigration, it's about family, it's about values, it's about betrayal, it's about so many things. And not one thing is well written. It's like she's just, I think in my review I compared this to a cake. Cake is nice if you have a little whipped cream and a cherry. Nice. But if you go with whipped cream and chocolate and more whipped cream and cherries and sprinkles, and it's just bad for you and it doesn't taste good. And I had the feeling that this is exactly what Without Merit did. It's not good for you. It's just too much and it's just one big mess. And the last book I want to talk to you about is not a bad book. It's a book I rated 3.5 stars, I think, but it was the biggest disappointment I read this year because I have been waiting for this book for so long, and then it was there and I read it and it was such a disappointment. It is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I absolutely adored Uprooted. Uprooted is one of my favorite books of all time. And Spinning Silver is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, my favorite fairy tale of all time. So I had really high expectations. And the story isn't bad, but it isn't good either. There's a lot of POVs, and POVs that don't really matter, that don't bring anything to the story, which just left me like, yeah, but why did I read this? Again, the story isn't bad, there's some magic, but it hasn't got that capturing magic feeling that Uprooted has. And that was why it really let me down. So that were my most disappointing reads of 2018. Share me yours, so I won't read them. And I wish you a very pleasant evening.